So welcome guys to Crouching Deadwood, Hidden Nebari, a New Zealand bonsai podcast. My name is Adrian Bird and I'm a professional bonsai artist in New Zealand, and this is Scott.
Hey, how's everyone doing? I'm an American from Indiana, living in New Zealand now for 16 years. I'm a bonsai hobbyist. That's real painful to say because my enthusiasm's through the roof. But I'm here with Adrian to discuss art, bonsai, structure, composition,
Lignification.
Lignified!
So let's get into it. Let's chat about, well, let's introduce ourselves first and how we got into bonsai.
I think yours goes further back and will take a little bit more time to describe because there's more history with it. Why don't you start?
Okay. So I have always loved nature and grew up around the nursery industry. Have always loved art, music. Cheers.
Cheers.
And growing up around that nursery and growing industry with my dad in particular, I always gravitated towards the more interesting trees in the nurseries that had, you know, the ones that aren't standardised and probably aren't going to sell the best in the nursery. So I always gravitated towards those and the way they sort of mimicked the wider, gnarlier trees in nature. So at a young age, I was really getting into the tree forms.
So very preteen.
Yep.
Yep.
And then apparently did a speech on bonsai when I was 7 in front of my primary school. And I do remember being on stage and talking about these tiny trees and the design of old trees and tying all that in with bonsai. So I have always been into it, but, you know, got a lot of books out on bonsai, maybe around the age of 14, started getting more into it. And then went to art school, and through art school and indeed after graduating art school, that's when I went deep with bonsai alongside music and graphic design. So it's been a long sort of 30-year journey.
Yeah.
A great journey.
When I hear that, it makes me think of the crossovers of the structure and composition of all art, from bonsai to a painting, to a ceramic pot. And to me, that seems incredibly exciting because it's in that era, I didn't have that opportunity or that vision. And you had that opportunity to like experience it on an academic level and then practice it on a daily application, right?
Yeah, sort of. I guess growing up through that like nursery industry sort of trade, always being around trees, you naturally develop a green thumb. So you're exposed to and looking after trees becomes quite easy, I think, because you've just grown up with it. And all my family are all gardeners, love gardening a lot, and so do I. So
your father is a nurseryman,
yeah,
right?
worked in the nursery and did horticultural science and a wide gamut, market gardening, you know, the whole gamut of growing. He can grow anything. It's amazing. So that green thumb comes through with you as you do that as a child, like all through your lifetime. And if you're into art and you're into music, then in sculpture, then bonsai is automatically the perfect amalgamation of those art forms. Horticulture, sculpture, music. Jam all that together and that can be bonsai for me. That is bonsai for me.
And just hearing that makes me think how significant it is that in this case the art is living.
Yeah, totally.
And that if the care isn't provided for it, it could go...
It won't be.
Suboptimal.
Yeah, definitely. It would become deadwood. Yeah, it's interesting for me because there's the horticultural side, which I think you can learn, you can grasp, you can learn how to keep a tree alive in a pot for a long time. And as you get better, learn how to make it thrive. So I think that's a huge side of bonsai, but the real side that interests me is the design and artistic side of what are you trying to say with your tree. So once you've got the horticulture down, and I say this quite a bit actually, once you've got the horticulture down, it's a lot harder. It's easier to teach people how to keep a tree alive and get it thriving. It's a lot harder to teach them the design principles, you know. You can show someone how to wire a tree out, detail wire out a branch, but it's all about knowing where to place that branch is the harder thing to teach as a bonsai professional.
And as a non-bonsai professional, I also find that the hardest part of design strategy. I'm getting better with it, and I have so much more to learn. But observing what you're doing and seeing the development in my collection makes it more interesting for me and more enthusiastic to pay attention to more of the little details so I can create, or when I'm working with you, co-create a more unique design with the tree.
Get that vision that you want out
Yeah.
there. Yeah. Do you find there are many difficult aspects of bonsai, obviously, but what are the harder points of bonsai for you? If you've got an idea in your head about a tree and where you want to go with it on that journey, do you find the horticultural side harder, or the actual design and working with the tree to get this vision out there?
I'm transitioning out of I'm maturing with my capacity to water.
Yeah.
Because I think it's the first thing we learn and the last thing we master. And because a lot of us are on time constraints, a lot of people just like shotgun water everything, like over and over. The container is wet underneath, I'm good. But like a shohin tree and chuhin tree need different amounts of water. And I can't just go, I'm going to water everything the same.
Yeah, that blanket watering idea.
It works for some trees and then is detrimental for other trees. So I've had to really corral everything together to like begin to make progress with watering, and it's still not as easy as what it sounds like for people. And then with the design part, paying attention to lines and developing the character through the practice of agriculture / horticulture, depends on what words we want to use, to create vigor in the tree and use that vigor to create character. That's becoming really fun because like I'm in a really windy area and I have a lot of really young trees that shouldn't really have bark, but because it's really windy, I've got trees that are like 4 to 6 years old that have flaky bark.
Yeah, you're using the environment to your advantage there, which is good.
Yeah, so it's like a little all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're still in that position with your collection and your journey as a bonsai artist, where you're still grappling with the watering and the sort of horticultural side still, and your environment being Wellington, being super windy. That balance of watering and negating that huge wind factor, which has knocked back, for instance, your redwoods that have been getting pretty hammered by the wind. Yes, yeah, you're getting the horticulture, like keeping the tree alive, down pat. You know you can keep them alive. Probably not as thriving yet as you want with some of those species. So once you get, for instance, the redwoods that are getting too hammered by the wind, once you get those more protected, you'll be able to execute the design side better.
Yeah, they just push when they have the right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Like in the parts of the year that it's not windy, I feel like I'm like just really enjoying the developmental stages, and I'm exaggerating for fun that I kind of fear November and December because they're the most windiest months of the year.
Spring winds.
Yeah, and that's when the trees are pushing. So like when they're really producing a lot of energy, they're also getting smashed by heavy winds.
Yeah, that soft new growth is getting stripped, really, isn't it? It's getting hammered
Yeah.
as it's opening up and pushing
Yep.
that elongation of that soft new growth. So let's tie back into your origin story. How did you get into bonsai before you came to New Zealand?
I lost a bet. Just joking. I lived in Colorado in 1990 for 10 months as a professional BMX performance artist. That sounds really snappy for someone that's just
That's
going
so
on.
snappy. Did you snap any bones?
No, I actually, in those 10 months, I had 0 injuries. Me and my 3 friends were touring Colorado, doing entertainment shows in BMX. I rode flatland, and another one of my friends did a little bit of flatland, but the others did a lot of box jumps that we took on tour with us, as in the ramps, and got to see Colorado. And a few years later, I came back to Colorado and ended up attending a Rocky Mountain Bonsai Society bonsai show because there was a girl I was interested in that was going there.
Ooh.
Unfortunately, in one perspective or another, I was more interested in her than I was the trees at the time. But I have to say that the trees outlived my attention of this situation, and
Your blossoming love
for
blossomed for the trees more than it did the human.
in this case, yes. I also grew up in northwestern Indiana, the Hoosier State, and I was in a small town outside of Michigan City, and the township that I lived in was called The Pines. Ponderosa pines and Pinus strobulus were in that area, and many other pines. And that's where I spent my early days climbing trees and fostering my relationship with nature, which was using my imagination.
Yeah, so you that's what really kind of hooked you potentially, is that climbing of the trees when
Yeah.
you're younger and stuff.
Those-
Yeah. It's a common scenario for
Cli-
people getting into bonsai.
Yeah, climbing those trees was my safe place as a kid that was trying to like be a pre-teenager and figuring out what my personality was going to be. And it came back to me at different parts in my life, and I continued to foster that relationship and be more interested in like their biological capacity of like what keeps them healthy and why they do well where they are. And it just became a real inquisitive part of my life as I was becoming a early and mid teenager, and I ended up in Chicago in the early 2000s, and there's a collection on the south side of the city and in Hoffman Estates, and then there's one on the north side in Highland Park, and the Highland Park collection by Spider Island had, I would guesstimate, between like 25 and 35 trees. So that like compounded my interest of like seeing this in a public
So
garden.
actual bonsai trees.
Actual developed bonsai trees.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Interesting.
I just kept getting little snippets of interest. And it wasn't really until I got to New Zealand in 2008 that I started to put more focus, time, energy, and lots of money into bonsai.
2008. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
True. Did you join a bonsai club? So if you sort of got to New Zealand around 2008, you're getting into the idea of bonsai art.
Yeah.
And then when did you join a club like Wellington Bonsai Club, would it be?
I think it was about 2009 or 2010.
So a year or two later you joined a bonsai club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a collection that was like very green behind the ear and going like, huh, I need to build my skills. So I did the internet searches and found the Wellington Club and started to see what the community was like in Wellington. And the club was started in 1980 by Keith Lowe and
So he's the owner of California Gardens.
California Garden Center. And Bevan, I'm going to say his last name wrong, Hussey? Hussey, maybe that's it, yeah. Although at that point Keith wasn't participating in the club events, Bevan was, and so you start to like kind of interview people and go like, what do you know? How do you do this? How do you do that? Why do you do that? When do you do that? Kind of thing.
Yeah, nice.
And it really ramped up my enthusiasm quite a bit because there was
A lot to learn off other people.
a lot to learn, and there were like some history with the Wellington Club. So yeah,
So you were in.
I was knee deep in the trees. I think around 7 or
You were Nebari deep.
Nebari deep.
Okay, well, that's good. So, that's our origin stories. What about New Zealand bonsai in general? How about that topic? That's a big topic. And how we should kick that off is, what would you say is your favourite native species, New Zealand native species to work with? It doesn't have to be a favourite, but what do you enjoy working with?
Manapuri blue totara.
Ah, yeah, nice.
They look beautiful. They are vigorous and grow not super fast, but fast enough where it helps keep the attention and the focus on their development. Yeah, I would say the Manapuri blue totara.
Yeah, Nebari blue. So that's collected from. I actually know the stands of trees where they took the original cuttings from up in Northland, and it's a beautiful variety of totara, and it does seem to be really stable in the pot culture. Really adaptable too, in terms of can handle frost, so you can grow it in a cold area.
Wind in Wellington?
Wind,
no problem.
easy, no problem, because it's a coastal tree. It grows just sort of further back from Manapuri in that area of Northland, just outside of north of Whangarei. And so it's coastal, it's growing on the cliffs coastally, and it doesn't tend to get as big, not that I've seen it, as your Podocarp totara, the standard totara.
Yeah.
Slightly smaller. The leaf is beautiful as well, isn't it? It's because it's not as sharply pointed. It's much bluer. It has sort of a rounded leaf.
It's kind of succulent-esque.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
But not really succulent.
yeah, I know what you mean. It's a thicker leaf.
Yeah.
And it's highly adaptable, and you can utilize it as a juniper-esque variety for us in New Zealand if you are getting over the fact that your junipers keep getting fungal problems as the world warms and it's more and more humid. Totara, especially Manapuri blue, doesn't mind humidity, so you don't have to be spraying heavy chemicals all the time.
I haven't had to at all.
Yeah, it's great. It's great for that reason, but it's also the way the live vein works. It's got beautiful bark. I like to think of not just Manapuri blue as the variety of totara, but totara in general I like to think of as for people that might be listening in from the northern hemisphere, I would sit it in somewhere species-wise. Imagine a western hemlock mixed with maybe Juniperus rigida, needle juniper,
Got it, yeah.
and with taxus, because it's a podocarp. Totara is podocarp, so it fits in that realm of a needle-like conifer with movement in the live vein, beautiful deadwood. Interesting enough, the deadwood hollows out just like taxus does. So the shell, the case of the outer shell of the deadwood is very long lasting, but always rots from the centre, unlike most varieties of juniper.
I wonder if our friends in San Francisco have any totara. I know that
As bonsai or
just
yeah.
either way, whether it's like a landscape tree or getting used as bonsai, because I know that there are putakawa on Alcatraz, and
Yeah, so
I'm aware that San Francisco has the same growing climate as Wellington, different than yours up north, but a 10B, so those coastal trees thrive really well there as it's coastal and the temperatures are, of course,
similar.
on par.
Yeah.
I have to ask Eric and Jonas and see if anybody there in that area are growing any kind of New Zealand totara, because I know they have exotic Australian trees and
Yeah, they've got callistemons and stuff like that.
Yes,
Bottle
yeah.
brush. They probably do have totara, but it's like, do they have those nice varieties we have here?
I'll have to ask them and see what they have come across. But yeah, that's my favorite. Do you have favorites?
I actually do. Totara, love it. And I think you saw on my website that I did that blog post on that mountain totara that I grew from cutting.
Hold on. You have a website?
I do.
What's your website?
It's adrianbirdbonsai.com.
Oh, thanks for reminding me. I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm very interested in those harder to find varieties that are so ideal for bonsai too. Similar to in Japan, where they're always looking for, and with the history of Japan, stumbling upon a witch's broom, a different variety of Japanese white pine, or a different strain of black pine, a dwarf black pine, or all that sort of thing. I think I'd really like to keep pushing that here in New Zealand because we have so many fantastic varieties. But totara is definitely a favourite of mine. I utilise it and like to style it in so many different ways, and I'm starting to slowly replace in some of my clients' bonsai collections, because I look after a lot of bonsai collections around New Zealand and work with my clients and their trees, and some of them are really struggling with the humidity level rising around New Zealand, not just in Northland or anything like that, but
All around New Zealand.
all around New Zealand, as the world gets warmer. So humidity and that fungal problem that's starting to tackle and wipe out the junipers, especially the procumbens, those classic varieties that people lean on when they
It's
first
so
get into
hard on
bonsai
those
and stuff.
trees.
Yeah, so those fungal problems wiping out those junipers. If you want to have a beautiful variety, a conifer that you can shape if you want to into quite a traditional Japanese stylized bonsai, you can use totara like that. You only need to look to Japan and look at the Texas like Japanese yew, Caspidata, and see how they've styled those, because totara is almost identical in form. The needle characteristic, leaf characteristic, it's just slightly different tone of green depending on the totara variety. But you can utilise totara to style, an informal upright juniper-esque bonsai with a spiralling live vein, beautiful shari, a lot of long-lived deadwood, tenjins coming out through the apex. Your world is your oyster with totara, really. You can do whatever you want with it. And I'm particularly interested in finding those hybrids and mountain totara, the prostrate versions, and utilising those again as a potential replacement for juniper as a native here. And I also love kaikatea because, in my opinion, that's like the moodiest tree species I've ever seen. And I love that, the tonal variety between the juvenile foliage to the mature.
We were talking earlier today how you like the color of them. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about the color of Kakatia?
Yeah, so that juvenile form, it's like a fern-like, tiny fern-like frond of a leaf, and it can range in colour from purple to black to, I mean, every brown tone in between. Some people might be put off by it because they think it might look slightly dead because of the brown tones through it. But you can, if you want more of the green tone, you can grow them in more shade and they'll green up more. But I like to grow mine in full sun. But as they mature, and it does take a long time, as they put out their mature foliage, that's a blue tone, similar to Nebari blue. So
Cool. How are Russell's in Palmerston North? Like, what colors are his when you've been?
Oh yeah, so that's a group planting. They are still in juvenile phase of foliage characteristics, still juvenile.
So bruisey colors?
Yeah, sort of browny blacks. Yeah.
Browny blacks?
Yeah, but still looks beautiful.
And
it's very moody. It's such a moody tree.
Do they get a little purpley with the brown sometimes?
Yeah, especially if it's cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very moody tree, which I love.
Cool. What do you think about conifers?
I love them.
Do you? Come on, really?
Yeah, I do. I love them.
Same.
I love my conifers. I'm probably heavier on the conifer side than the deciduous, in a collection that are sort of a personal collection that I might be building if I don't constantly sell all these trees off as soon as they get refined, which tends to happen.
What was the phrase you were saying earlier today that like money grows on trees?
Yeah, for me.
For a bonsai professional?
As soon as a tree, as a bonsai professional, as soon as a tree gets refined or semi-refined, it's usually sells. So I need to try and sell less trees because I am developing this bonsai garden that people will be able to come and visit at some point. But if I keep selling all the good trees, what is there going to be for anyone to see?
Everyone else's collection except yours.
Yeah, that's the struggle of the bonsai artist.
Yeah,
here.
that's what you're there
the
doing.
bonsai professional here in New Zealand. That's the struggle.
So we both like conifers.
I love anything alpine. I just love it. Anything alpine.
We were talking earlier today about like your variety of Japanese black pine that you're developing through your practices to create different character in them.
Oh yeah, we were talking about us. Yeah, so having grown Japanese black pine from seed for a while now, I have finally got a sort of an offshoot variety that has got very fleshy short needles, which looks like a dwarf. It'll be a dwarf. So we've grown thousands of black pines from seed, and it's nice to finally have one that's a variant.
A mutant?
Yeah, a mutant. So we might be able to... I have fertilised it so heavily over the last 3 years to try and just make sure it's not just a tree that was lacking in nutrient or anything like that. Growing it in full sun, good open substrate, and growing it with a bunch of, 50 to 100 other black pines. And it's certainly not scientific in the way we're doing this, but treating them all similarly, or the same in terms of fertilizer, nutrient regime, watering regime, and this one is just a very fleshy short needle. So that's promising because if we can get that one, I guess if we just take seeds off that, it's potentially not going to be true to form. But if we take that and graft it onto other black pines, we might be able to get a dwarf black pine variety going here in New Zealand, which I'm yet to see anywhere. So that would be exciting.
The opportunities for that are really exciting.
Yeah, because to my knowledge, no one's ever brought in Kotobuki black pine, like any kind of dwarf black pines. I think there's certainly some in Australia, but I don't know if they've ever made the shore of New Zealand yet.
Did you say kotobuki?
Yeah, so I mean, there's just so many varieties in Japan, so many varieties.
Many, yeah.
Yeah, and always the more popular ones become obviously more well known and more sought after, and become more of a household variety.
I'm going to start asking around New Zealand when I visit clubs and go to shows what they know about the Japanese black pine that they have. I know there's also Austrian black pine here in New Zealand, and I'm now just curious what we really know about the Japanese black pines that are here.
Yeah, I would say the knowledge isn't huge on the different varieties, but we've brought seed in obviously and produced thousands of Japanese black pine from our seed, and a lot of Japanese black pines around New Zealand probably potentially came from us because we've grown so many and sold so many. So that's all like just a standard Thumbuji black pine seed from Takamatsu, so it's not a like specialty variety per se.
I'm curious, here in Wellington there's a wildlife sanctuary called Zealandia. In Zealandia, I don't have a exact number, but there's quite a few, what I'm told by the staff there, are Japanese black pines. They're really mature trees, and I would guesstimate, based on what they've told me there, they're around 60 or more years old. And I'm curious now, because they've been there for so long, which ones they might be.
Yeah, they're likely to be a fairly standard Japanese black pine, Thumbuji. I wouldn't imagine. You never know. But so when do you think they were planted? 60 years back. I've been to Zealandia. I haven't been walked around there because you can't actually walk around the gardens. It's all fenced off, protected. Is that right?
That part that I'm talking about, you can walk around and go up and touch.
So have you seen those Japanese black ones?
And I brought it up because I have collected from your field your Japanese black pines, and I actually also collected some of the cones that were on other trees. And although I didn't do a scientific experiment, they look very much similar in character to the pine cones that are off the Japanese black pines in Zealandia.
Oh, yeah.
So now I'm curious, how closely related they are.
Yeah, would be difficult to know, but if you grew both in similar substrate, got seed from the Zealandia tree, seed off one of our black pines that we've grown, it's likely to be fairly similar. Yeah, you need a good variation that's quite noticeably different for it to be worthwhile. Producing off that from cutting or anything like that, because 9 times out of 10, when you're growing things from seed, you might think you've got a variation, like something different or particularly special, and then you just sit on it, fertilize it, etc., water it as per, and it's just a weaker tree, and it either catches up or with the rest of them, or it stays weak.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily just want a weak tree that has naturally shorter needles. You want something that visually looks different, and when you're really putting in the inputs and the output is still the needle size is very healthy but not longer, then that's a dwarf characteristic, if you sort of know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something funny, when I first started going to the Wellington Bonsai Club years ago, they asked me what I was growing and what I was interested in, and it already kind of worked out that it was too windy for most maples for me. I can grow tridents effectively, but most others it's just way too windy.
Yeah.
And I told them that I was conifer heavy, and they're like, you shouldn't waste your time with conifers. They grow so slow. And in my experience, it's actually the opposite. I feel like they grow like weeds, super fast. Like, you better
Particularly
be...
probably in your location where it's windy, the maple's going to be slow.
Yeah.
Get really hammered, but the pines, they're going to go for it.
And my guess at it is that it's the substrate they're in. Have them in a volcanic substrate rather than like a soil substrate, and
So that the people that made that comment of conifers growing so slow, just a different substrate to what you're utilizing.
Thanks for bringing that up. It's the other side of my decision making, is they were growing conifers in pea metal and soil, and in my experience, I don't think it really provided an equal balance of water and oxygen to the root system. And anytime I had assisted or observed repots with those trees in those substrates, I was really surprised they were still alive.
Yeah, that's understandable. I've repotted a lot of trees in recent times, getting them out of what people tend to call pea metal, which is just that grey roding chip. Yeah, and it's not offering anything for the tree, unfortunately.
Something funny to share with listeners, that I repotted a cryptomeria about 2 years ago that Bjorn worked on when he was here. And the styling in Deadwood looked really nice. But when I repotted it, I thought it was like kind of funny. It was pea metal, soil, and blocks of polystyrene through the container. And I asked the owners, I was like, why is there polystyrene in here? And they're like, oh, it makes the whole thing lighter. So when you have to move it, it's super easy.
Yeah, that's
which is true.
So it is true. Yeah, it does reduce the weight, and they also add it in for drainage. It's a bit of an old school way to add drainage as well. Big blocks of polystyrene, rather than adding a gravel substrate for drainage, they'll put polystyrene in to keep it lighter. But the roots aren't going to be loving that in a bonsai.
We're laughing about
scenario.
this because it's interesting, because that's how they did it then, and now we're doing something different, right?
Yeah, we're always trying to improve science.
Agronomy.
Nice. Okay, well, that wraps up our first little Bonsai New Zealand podcast. And going forward, we're hoping to put out these podcasts, maybe monthly, and discussing all sorts of topics covering bonsai, art, horticulture, science,
architecture
in New Zealand and elsewhere abroad. And Scott, you would like to put a shout out?
Yes. In New Zealand, we're ramping up. I think today we're like at 49 days until the Hamilton Bonsai Club's annual show/exhibit. I feel like it's in the top 3 shows to attend in New Zealand. The people are lovely. The quality of the trees are top shelf. And I hope to see all of you there. It's October 12th and 13th this year. Saturday, Sunday. It's at the Hamilton Gardens, so there's lots of parking. It's
a good venue. It's a great venue.
Yeah, it's always like something that I don't want to miss. It's that great. Trevor Gardner is there with his wire and tools. You'll run into other vendors that have like pre-bonsai that are exciting. Ken Bonsai is there, and he'll have like a huge selection of imported Chinese pots that are pretty badass.
Probably David too.
Yeah, David Lee will probably be there. I don't know if that's confirmed, but he's been there before, so I assume he'd be there again. And then I missed it last year, but I heard there were other potters that brought some badass ceramics.
True. Yes, and I'll be judging the show too this year, so that'll be fun.
That feels like so Game of Thrones, judging the show.
Scoring the shred.
But you know, it's really like, as weird as it sounds, like judging a show. It's actually really fun because you have to invest a lot of time in really observing the trees and seeing their character, and then scoring them. It's pretty fun. I hope to see all of you there, and we'll see where this goes because we're having fun and talking to you.
Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next time.